I did want to take a slight trek back because you're talking about containment and the skill that it is to put it in a bucket instead of like just throwing it on somebody, and the state of shock and the collapse that can come when there's an intensity. And I love how you brought up the word intensity. There is what we have is a trigger scale. And that's when our nervous system from like 0 to 10 and 0 to 5 are, front cortex, our ability to think properly. Our fight and flight isn't necessarily triggered. We're just mildly irritated or annoyed. And it's easier to contain ourselves in those moments. What happens though, Dre, when someone is triggered at a 10? And sometimes it appears that people go from 0 to 10 because some kind of incident, and if they haven't had enough sleep, there's a few things that have gone on, it triggers. That's why they call them a trigger. It's just this sudden reaction to something that reminds them of something in the past. And so, what do we do with that? How do we learn containment over time? And what happens when someone's in your midst and the intensity really is so much and they can't contain it? What do we do with that? I'm going to throw
Hmm.
it back to you.
Like what we do with someone that's not able to contain, like when they're at a trigger 10.
Yeah.
Well, taking a break, you know, applying regulation skills to bring that back down. Because if I'm at a 10, then I'm not able to hear you. I'm not able to hear myself. Like, I think we need to take time and space to bring it back down,
Mm-hmm.
to get clarity, right? Because there's no point of communicating from that place. Um, for me, it's about nervous system regulation at this point.
Yeah. And so, in terms of that, because we talk about co regulation and co containment. And so, in our class, we always say, if someone can notice someone's triggered and in saboteur mode, and this is, when they're just spewing out judgments, if they're able to contain themselves, and sometimes this takes a bit of practice and spaciousness, the other person who's triggered, because the intensity of that anger can't, the anger or whatever it is, it doesn't last because it's so intense. It's like a flash in the pan, or when people throw gasoline in an oil fire, it goes, but then it quickly dies down. And so, if we can observe, and we can if we've done a lot of emotional work, if we get triggered ourselves, that's when, yeah, we need a lot of space. But there is the possibility of the person who is less triggered able, able to regulate themselves, getting out of the judgment in their mind, because people who are triggered can feel judgment. It's like their empathy is elevated in those moments. And if we can get out of judgment, we become a clear conduit. It's just like newborns. If one's sick, twins, one's sick and the other one is doing well, you put them beside each other and the other one starts to regulate with the more healthy person. When you're in a space with someone and you're able to do that, being mindful that you're not repressing anything of your own needs, it's in the field and the other person will start shifting. The key is that we stay out of fear of what we're observing, and we're used to being in fear with people who have really intense emotions in our culture. We're not sure how to deal with that, so it does take a bit of skill. um, but being able to reflect back to someone what they're actually feeling without the judgment of what you think this means. They're an angry person, they need anger management, whatever those judgments are, it can shift the intensity quite quickly. So I just wanted to
Mhm.
put that in there.
Yeah, yeah, the power of co-regulating. Yeah, yeah. That it just needs one person to be regulated to support bringing the other person down. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Just providing that quality of presence, right? Empathic
Quality.
listening to be able to reflect back the feelings and needs and still be grounded. Because a big part of it for me to be triggered that way is because I'm not heard. I don't, I'm being misunderstood.
Yeah.
And when I kind of lands in my body that you're hearing me, then definitely it brings it down for sure. And it is the skill to stay in the heat of the moment. Like it's easy for me to leave, right? And come back. But to stay in the moment and regulate in that moment, yeah, it is challenging. And that's where the skill gets developed over time. It's like me building the containment, right? And that starts with me being able to handle my own intensity, right?
Oh.
Right? To be able to handle someone else's. It's like nervous system training. Like I'm going to the gym for my emotional capacity and I judge we don't have that skill. We don't go to school or train this way. We're trained to numb, we're trained to avoid, we're trained to just react, at work, someone's pissed off and they're taking it out on their staff or clients. So we're not trained to be able to contain this intensity and still be grounded. Like the practice of being okay to receive a no, or disappointing others when I set my own boundaries, or speaking my truth, or hearing the truth from someone else, and just breathing into the intense emotions that arise. Like for a
Mhm.
long time, my body was not conducive for conflict whatsoever. Like I recall many times having these tough conversations with my mom and dad or brother and sister, and we would just start shaking uncontrollably and start crying. Or I remember fighting like in school, and I would get so angry that I was crying. Like I wasn't sad. It's just that I had so much emotion bottled up in me that when I was fighting someone, I was crying at the same time.
Mm.
And this energy was so intense, right? And I didn't get it. And I was kind of afraid of it, right?
I
So
love
how can I
what you said about
yeah?
that.
Hmm?
Yeah. Sorry, am I cutting you off?
What were you saying? You
I was
said
just
something
saying
there?
I'm loving what you're saying about I couldn't handle my own intensity.
Hmm.
Like, what a I've never heard you say that before, and it's just, like, opened up light bulbs for me and of excitement because, what it reflects to me is, yeah, as a controller, one of my saboteurs is like, "Okay, I wanna have everything organized and people in place," because my family was quite I don't know what was going on in my family at the time, and when I feel separated from someone, when I feel disconnected, the anxiety for me, it sounds like anger is so intense in you,
Hmm.
anxiety. And I would never admit that
Hmm.
years ago, but the anxiety was so intense and I
Hmm.
couldn't contain it in myself. I didn't know how to process it in myself. So then I'm like leeching out to have other people like, you have to help me here, like come closer so that I don't feel such anxiety. And
Hmm.
of course, that only like people are like, oh my God, get away from me. Right. And so, how do we begin,
Hmm.
like, if we can contain and understand our own and handle our own intensity, that's when we
Hmm.
gain the skills to handle others'
Hmm.
intensities. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a workout, right?
It is a
To allow
workout.
me, even in like traffic, getting road rage, how do I breathe in and be with that anger, irritation of someone cutting me off? Just breathing through it. That is a nervous system workout. Is to expand my body to be okay with it rather than leaking it out. Because before growing up, I would leak it out. I would snap uncontrollably, like outburst, right? I'll play a video game and I get killed or something, and I'll throw my controller. Yeah, looking back now, man, like I had some anger issues, man. Yeah, I would smash my keyboard, throw the video game controller, bro. I would break it, and I'll get mad for breaking it. Yeah, I was just a kid that didn't know how to handle my anger, and it was so easy and right in my face when having those tough conversations with my brother and sister, and we would both all of a sudden shoot from 0 to 10 in anger, and we would cry and shake, and we're like, "Holy crap, what's going on here?" And it was so scary that I didn't want to experience that ever again. Like, I felt like I lost control. It's just that I wasn't in a situation or environment that allowed me to practice being with that anger in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we be with emotions in a healthy way? I see people, different people are like, oh well, go get a pillow and just beat on it, express it outwards.
Mm.
But how do we process it inside ourselves? What does that mean to you to process it in a healthy way?
Well, that's tricky, right? Because one thing is being with that anger. and another thing is to process it what it means.
Mhm,
And that's
ah,
like, right? They're two separate things. The first part is to be with it, is to breathe through it, is to be present with it, to not fix it, to not get rid of it, to not let it leak, right?
mhm.
Um, and that allows me to like, whoa. And the second piece is through conscious communication. It's having the awareness that, if I'm feeling this way, what am I needing? What needs of mine are not being met, right? And then with that awareness, then I can, because I'm breathing, I can connect with, okay, what am I needing right now? Even asking that question and allowing that to pop up. That's one way. That's one way of processing it. What about you? What would you what's coming alive for you in terms of like being in
Um,
that space and then processing that anxiety or anger?
yeah, I think, like what you're saying, okay, I'll go through my feelings and then identify my needs. For some people, it's really hard for them to do it. There's
Mhm.
a step in there. Okay, what am I feeling and what does this remind me of? That's why it's a trigger. It's a mirror to a past experience. And so for me, um, eh, I have a sister I've never met. And I think what I
Mm.
knew is that I think when you come into a room or a womb, when someone else has been present, you have an idea that someone else has been there. And so I had this longing and this missing for my sister that I've never met my entire life. And it was in the field. And so there's a lot of family secrets and different things that people don't talk about. And this is where it's still locked in our bodies. And people kind of skirt around these things for generations that we've been doing it. And so as we tap in to allow us to touch those emotions, we can touch into their actual origin, which usually isn't the present moment. And as we come to touch in, and sometimes people do inner child work, or we touch that part of ourselves, that protector part of ourselves, just, really get to know them. And that's where we start to have communications on the inside. They call it internal family systems.
Mm.
Hey, okay, what part of me feels that? And can I be with it? So we start to practice these skills with ourselves and all the different parts of ourselves that maybe we've felt we've had to push down or push aside and actually welcome them back in as part of who I am.